Hello, everyone. This session is hosted by Action Associates. My name is Leanna Skanian. I'm an account executive on the construction team at Avid Exchange. I've been with Avid for 6 years now, and my focus is helping companies to digitally transform their accounts payable, invoice, and payment processes. The session today is going to focus on TimberScan, which is part of Avid Exchange's suite for construction. Combine that with your Sage 300 CRE system to automate your end-to-end accounts payable process. Before we start, I know there are some companies in Canada that are joining today. So I just want to mention when we get to the payment portion of our session that the Avid Exchange Payment Network is only available in the US. So today we're going to focus on a brief overview of Avid Exchange, just give you a little background on who we are as an organization. Then we're going to touch on problems with the manual accounts payable process, followed by a review of the invoice to pay workflow. And then we'll take a look at the product, and we'll wrap up with a summary of the benefits of automation. Our mission at Avid is to transform the way companies are paying and receiving their bills by providing solutions to automate the invoice to pay process. Avid's been in business for over 20 years. We are publicly traded and held to very tight security standards and protocols. We have over 2,000 employees and are headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina, and upwards of 10,000 customers that are using our software solutions and services to transform and digitize their AP processes. TimberScan Solution Suite is designed for construction companies, and it tightly integrates with your Sage 300 CRE system. You'll be able to maintain control with a centralized platform and be able to analyze data with customizable dashboards and reporting. Maximize your workforce efficiency by automating the onboarding, entry, and routing of invoices, and use tailored workflows to ensure invoices and payments are reviewed and approved by the right people at the right time. You'll be able to pay your vendors quickly and securely based on the status of your invoice and lien waiver, and mitigate the risk associated with processing paper checks. Recent surveys show that payment fraud is on the rise. 76% of companies experiencing payment fraud within the last year, and the majority of that fraud was around paper checks. TimberScan's purpose-built solution for Sage 300 CRE provides for a seamless integration to data flow easily between the systems, and we replicate the AP invoice entry experience. We've built an extensive payment network representing 8,800 buyers that have processed nearly 76 million vendor payment transactions in 2024 to over 1.2 million suppliers that totaled over 231 billion in payment volume. That means on average, about 40% of the companies you're paying are already set up in our vendor network. Avid does all the onboarding of the vendors that aren't in our network. We have nearly 500 employees on our supplier onboarding and support services team. They reach out to your vendors and suppliers to review the payment options available. They get them set up with their preferred payment method. And with our Avid Pay Direct option, you get the banking details, or we get the banking details from your supplier. We store the information securely and also manage changes to that process. That way, you're not responsible for sensitive banking information, reducing the overall risk on your end. More and more companies are tech savvy and shifting their focus to working smarter, not harder, being able to do more with less. And the way to accomplish that is through automation. We're going to take a look at the before and after automation in the next couple of slides here. This is just a really good way to see how cumbersome, how labor intensive, and how many steps are in the process. So you can see here, this might not be indicative of your specific process, but after talking with hundreds and thousands of clients over the years, these are generally the steps that we hear that are in the invoice to pay process. So invoices are coming in, variety of via email, electronically, or hard copy in the mail. So those have to be opened. And then in many cases, they're put into a folder and routed to someone, handed off in the office or put in a mailbox for somebody to review, provide the right cost coding information on those invoices. And then once they're approved, they get handed back off to somebody, typically in accounting, to be entered in the ERP system. Somebody then has to select the invoices that need to be paid. And in construction, there's still a lot of physical checks being cut. So somebody needs to print checks, fold them, stuff them, stamp them, mail them, and then deal with all of the follow-up, bank reconciliation. In many cases, the check stubs are attached, stapled to the invoices, and then filed away. And then somebody has to deal with, research. Has the payment been received? Did it get there on time? Anything that's lost, what happened to it? So again, lots of steps, manual process, very labor intensive and very costly. With AvidXchange, we reduce that down to just a couple of steps here that you can see. Any place you see the blue X, those steps are automated with AvidXchange. So essentially, you're left with just making sure the coding on that invoice is coded correctly, approving it, still controlling, which invoices need to be paid and approved, and then your bank reconciliation. Everything else gets automated with our platform. So lots of efficiency that can be had here. All right, now we're going to focus on TimberScan, how it can automate your process, eliminating the paper chase, the duplicate manual entry, and giving you control and visibility that we've been talking about. Well, before we shift gears, I'm just going to focus on a couple of slides here. I just want to quickly talk through what the end-to-end flow would look like using TimberScan. So if we take a look at the upper left-hand corner here, the first step in the process is acquiring the invoices. So when you think of TimberScan, think of it really as the front end to your Sage 300 CRE system. When it comes to onboarding invoices, entering them, approving them, and then once that invoice has been fully costed and approved, that's when it will get sent over to Sage. So to get those invoices in the system, there's a number of automation tools that we have available. We have an email monitoring tool and an auto acquire. So if you have an AP inbox set up, we can monitor that inbox, bring the attachments or basically the invoices from those emails right into TimberScan, assign them to a data entry group. The system will read the text on those invoices. So that's the OCR and smart extraction technology. And populate some of that entry for you. So an end user doesn't have to manually key in, the date, the invoice number, the amount. The technology can do that for you, speeding up the entry process as well as helping with data entry or errors. Once those invoices are entered in the system, that's when the workflows will take effect. So the system will automatically route those invoices based on your business rules. There is a final review step here as well. So once the invoices have been routed, a lot of times somebody in accounting will just want to have the final check on that invoice before it gets sent to Sage. The system will also proactively send alerts out so that when approvers have new invoices that need to be approved, the system will let them know, as well as reminders. So if things have been sitting in someone's queue, the system's going to automatically alert them. Now, once we send the invoice into Sage, we're going to send all of the data that we've collected here to be able to create that invoice record within your Sage system. But we're also going to provide a link to the invoice image within Sage. So that way, the invoice, anything that you might have attached to it as part of that routing and approval, all of that will be available within Sage, proof of payment, the lien waiver. So in Sage, once that invoice is available in Sage, that's when the payment process will take effect. So you can leverage the payment network to be able to pay your suppliers with either a virtual card, an ACH, Avid Pay Direct, or a physical check. And the system will let you know if you have any outstanding lien waivers before releasing that payment. This is just a high-level overview of how the TimberScan lien waiver management solution works. It does integrate with Sage's compliance tracking, so you would need to have lien waivers set up as a compliance item within Sage. When the invoices come into the system, they're going to be received and coded in TimberScan, and they're going to go through your normal routing and approval process and then exported over to Sage. The lien waiver records will automatically get created in TimberScan Go, and that's going to be based on your client-specific Sage 300 CRE compliance settings. The lien waivers are reviewed in TimberScan Go and then sent to the vendor via a DocuSign integration. Lien waiver records are tracked and managed in TimberScan Go via a lien waiver log. So the system is tracking all the lien waivers that have been sent and received. Signed lien waivers are approved and onboarded in TimberScan Go as well. And as part of that process, that signed lien waiver gets attached to the invoice image in TimberScan, and it also updates Sage, letting Sage know that that compliance item has been updated. The payments are initiated in Sage, and that information is automatically sent to TimberScan Go into what we call Avid Pay Control. So the payments would be reviewed and approved. And that's going to be done by whoever you designate on your end to approve those payments. And they'll be flagged if there's a lien waiver required. So on the payment control workbench, we use graphics to be able to display and let the user know if there's an issue with the lien waiver if it hasn't been received. So red will let them know lien waiver's outstanding and the payment is blocked. Yellow indicates that there isn't a waiver that's needed, but it will let you still proceed to release the payment. And then green will let you know that the lien waiver's been received and the payment is ready to be released. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and head into the application and focus on our product demonstration. So this is TimberScan for Sage 300 CRE. On our home screen here, we have a nice dashboard so you can quickly see invoices that need your attention. On the right here, you can control which tiles and widgets you see on your dashboard. So here we're looking at invoices by job, invoices by vendor. If I hover over the pie chart, you can see total dollars for that vendor as well as number of invoices. Same thing by job. And then you can drill in as well. So if I just wanted to take a look at, my invoices for this Northwest Food Warehouse job or maybe for A1 Electric Company. At the top is the general navigation. So I can just tab through the different functions in the system. And then below here are my action buttons. I also can turn off the dashboard as well. Now, the first step in the process we talked about is acquiring. So to do that, I just click on the acquire button. Now, there's a number of ways to acquire invoices into the system. Here you can see I'm just dragging and dropping them. If you use all the automation tools on the front end that we talked about, the email monitoring and the auto acquire, you won't need to do this step. It'll put those invoices directly in data entry. Okay, but you always have the ability to acquire an invoice manually, and this is what that process looks like. On the left, you'll see the images that you brought into the system. You can simply right-click on an image if you need to split things out into multiple documents. Over here on the right, you have annotation options if you want to put a sticky note, maybe with some text or highlight something. At the bottom, we just tell TimberScan what it is that we're acquiring. In this case, it's going to be regular invoices. And then when I hit the process button down here at the right, TimberScan will take this batch of invoices and it's going to go ahead and move them or assign them to the data entry group that I note here at the bottom. So these data entry groups, you can really think of them as individual or a group of people that would be responsible for entering those invoices. Lots of companies will just have one. Other companies will have multiple if maybe they have different locations or like to split different types of invoices up between different people for entering. Right, so that's the acquire process. Now, once those invoices are in the system, this is the invoice entry process. So you can either use the invoice entry at the top of the screen here, and I can see I have 13 invoices that need to be entered, or you can just tab through the invoices here, and I'm just going to select this one here as an example. Right, you'll notice I'm getting a compliance warning. If you are using compliance tracking in Sage, you'll see those warnings right here in TimberScan. Now on the bottom is my entry grid. The top section is my header information. Underneath that is my line items. And you'll notice here information has already been pre-populated. That's the OCR technology at work where it will read information on those invoices. You can always override it. So if I just clicked on the description field as an example, if I wanted to change something, I can certainly do that. For invoices that relate to a commitment, if the commitment is on the invoice, it can read that in as well. Otherwise, we can just select it using our lookup at the bottom. When I select that list button, it's going to present me with open commitments for that vendor or job. So in this case here, I have 3. So I'm just going to select that first one. And then the system will present me with line items. So these are the line items on that commitment. I can tell the system I want to create all of the lines. Or if you're only being partially invoiced, maybe you just select, certain line items. When I do that, that line item automatically gets created on my invoice here at the bottom. And on the right, we can see what that original commitment was, what's been invoiced against it. This TimberScan value shows what's going through the routing and approval process. And so I can see here my balance in red if I'm going to have a negative scenario. So I got a nice visual indicator letting me know that something here needs my attention. The commitment at the bottom will show me the detail. All right, so we just looked at the summary. Now this view shows me by line item, the amount of each line item, was there any change orders for that line, what's been invoiced against it, what's going through the routing and approval, what's been paid, and my balance. So right here during invoice entry, and this is available for approvers as well, I can quickly see my commitment at a summary level or a detailed level. I also have some nice tooltips available where if I hover over, in this case, the job, I can see what the revised contract is, what's been billed against it, what's going through the routing and approval, and my balance, right? Same thing here for the cost code category, and those are all throughout TimberScan as well. For during entry, I have the ability, if I want to put a note up here at the top, you can just see we call it a comment. All right, and that becomes part of the audit trail. I could put it on hold if maybe there was an issue with the invoice and I wanted to put it on hold and come back to it later. You can email from here. But once you've done your entry, you just accept it and it will route it to the approver. Now, one of the things to mention during invoice entry, you can partially code that invoice. So if the data entry person maybe only knows the job, and the person approving that invoice is going to know the cost code, and category in that, you can simply just put the job during invoice entry, and then the system can route to the person responsible for that job, and they can fill in the balance of the coding. So that is the invoice entry process. Now, before we look at approvals, I'm going to spend a few minutes just covering some of the reports and inquiries available in the system. This is one of the powerful portions of the program. There's 19 reports available in TimberScan. You can pick and choose what you want to use, and we have management reports as well as productivity reports. So if we look at the invoice status report, this will show me how many invoices are in the routing and approval and the total dollars. And then I can just drill into the detail. This is the breakdown of those 46 invoices, who they're with, and then you can just keep going. If I want to see Doug's invoices, I can quickly see, when that invoice was assigned. I can link to that invoice image as well. So if I just click on the image button, it's going to bring up the image of the invoice. So that's more of a management report. Now we have a similar report by job. So this one will show the same information, but we group it by job. So for my Northwest Food Warehouse job, I can see these invoices are in this data entry group. These came in from the credit card portion of the program. These are with Doug, and then so on and so forth. And then it just goes to the next job. You get the summary here for this job, total dollars. You can still link to the invoice images. And then for, productivity, we have reports to look at, how long it's taking to process invoices through the system, how long it's taking users to get their tasks done. We do have a nice committed cost report as well to be able to see all invoices associated with a commitment, whether they're in TimberScan or they're in Sage. So you get, that two-sided view. And then for inquiries, a number of great inquiries in TimberScan as well. So up at the top, you can see all the different inquiries. I'll focus on the job cost inquiry here for a moment. So this will give me the ability to see invoices by status, the location. When I check the TimberScan box, that's looking at invoices that are still going through the routing and approval. When I check the current box, now I'm looking at invoices that are also in Sage. And so here I can pick a date range. This is a tool you can use to provide billing backup for T&M, cost plus work, draw packages, or maybe even you just have an auditor that wants some information. So I'm going to say I want all dates, and then I have the ability to pick, one job, multiple projects, all my jobs. So I'm just going to focus on the Northwest Food Warehouse job here. Now this is the results of my inquiry. When I scroll over, I can see the log for any of the invoices. I can, view the image of the invoice. All of the columns at the top are configurable, so I can remove columns if I don't want them in my view. I can remove invoices here. If maybe I don't want this particular transaction in my report, I just right-click and say exclude the row. I could also take an entire vendor out if I like. So you can tailor this. And then when you have it to where you want, up at the top, I can create a report. This gives me the ability to create a PDF and also have the invoice images combined into that report. And then on the left, I have the ability to dictate what do I want included in my report. In addition to the invoice image, maybe I want my supporting documents in there. I could have the check record in there, the payment information, the approval page. I can group it if I like. Maybe I want to group it by a cost code or a category. I can also say whether I want the annotations included in the report. So that way, if there's something, internal notes that you don't want in that packet, you have the ability to control that as well. When I create that report, and this is an example of what that would look like. So at the top, I have a summary of all the invoice information, and then behind that, I have all of the images. So this is a real quick, easy way to pull together a report for billing. Can be a big time saver especially if you're doing a lot of T&M and cost plus projects. A couple of other things to mention here, the location and the status. The TimberScan column here tells me those invoices are still going through the routing and approval. And I can see here the status. These are in data entry. This one's in final review. I can see the user here that they're with. And then I can also see at the top, I got 150 invoices for this project. There's my total dollars. And then I can use any of these columns. They all come with, out of the box filters. I can do custom inquiries. And so this is just a quick, easy way if I'm looking for something that, I can use contains or starts with, and I can simply just start typing and it'll just bring me right to that record. I can also group by any of the columns you see at the top. So if I wanted to group by, a commitment or by a cost code or a category, I can just take that column and simply drag it up. And now I've grouped all those invoices, in this case by cost code. When I hit the plus button, now it expands that out and I can see I got 32 invoices and 68,000 of my 497 for the project are allocated to this cost code. All right, so you can use this during data entry as well as your approvers. So as approvers are approving invoices, if they want to dig in and see more of the detail, they can easily get to that using the inquiries. Now, for approvers, depending on where they're located, they could also use the desktop version of the application, or they can use TimberScan Go. So for those approvers that are maybe remote or not in the office at a job site, TimberScan Go gives you the ability to access the TimberScan system securely via the internet without having to remote into the server. So when I log in as an approver, I'll have my dashboard as well. And if I like to approve invoices by job, this is a quick way I can just click on the project. Now I see my different jobs across the top, and I can click on an individual invoice, or if I say edit all, it just brings me into the batch. And so here you can see I got notes popping up, and I can just go through and start reviewing and approving my invoices. I can approve on a tablet or a smartphone. So over here, this would be my header information, and then this would be my line items. So your approvers, of course, can see those tooltips. This is a cost code tooltip, but if this was related to a commitment, they'd have that commitment summary here as well. And then, my buttons at the top if I'm going to approve. As an approver, if there's an issue with the invoice and I want to reject, I can simply reject, and I do have to put a reason why, and then tell the system who I'm sending this invoice to. So this is more of the form view if you're on a tablet or a smartphone. If I'm on a laptop, I can still use TimberScan Go. Anyone that has a TimberScan license can choose to use the TimberScan Go platform or the desktop version. It's up to the user. But at the bottom, this is more of a spreadsheet look and feel. I have my header information at the top, and then these are my line items. Now, for the rest of the approval process, we talked about the final review step when we reviewed the workflow slide. So whoever's going to be responsible for final review, I can see I got 6 invoices that are in my queue. And when I come in here, it's all the same information that was entered throughout the process. The only difference here at the bottom, instead of approve, it says queue for export. So this is my opportunity to just check, do I have my supporting documents that I need? Maybe I'm verifying retainage or tax information. Am I within my commitment parameters? And if all is good, I just queue it for export. Once it's queued for export, it'll land in this export queue here. All right, so as those invoices are getting approved throughout the day, they're just going to land in this bucket, and then you can run the export as often as you like. When invoices are exported, they go over to Sage and create the invoices. They go into a batch. All right, so there's not an import or anything that needs to be run over in Sage. And in Sage, I can also see the invoice image that I mentioned. So when I click on an invoice image, the paperclip will be highlighted. So that way I can just click on the paperclip and it will bring up an image of the invoice. Now for lien waivers, when I'm in Sage and I'm ready to print checks or process my payments. The only difference you'll see here, once I've selected the invoices that I want to pay, instead of selecting a printer to print them out, I would just select this Avid secure printing option. That tells the system that those payments are going to be sent through our payment network. So that will take and send that batch of payments over here into TimberScan Go. So I'm just going to log in. Now within TimberScan Go, you can see here, there's a lot here. So again, it's really the user's choice. You can acquire invoices, you can do entry in the platform, you can approve, final review, inquiries. We also have our pay control log. So this is where the payment approvers will come to see those payments that need to be approved. If I hit search, it'll just bring back everything, or I can use the filters at the top. Each line item you see here is an invoice, or excuse me, a payment. And I can click the plus button and see my invoices. This will tell me that here payment can be approved, but there's an unconditional partial, lien waiver. If I hit browse all, it shows me my invoices over on the left, the images, and I have my payment information here at the top. I can see my invoices that make up this payment. If I hit the plus button, I can also see the coding. So if the payment approver wants to see that information, that's available as well. And then my image, this approval page automatically gets attached to the invoice record. So it's tracking when it was received, who entered it, who approved it all the way throughout your process. Anything that was attached, this is basically the invoice packet. If the lien waiver had been received, it would be attached here as well. If in this case, this is telling me, that it's yellow, so it's warning me, but I could still release the payment. If it's red, the payment's blocked, and that's a tailoring or configuration option in the system. You control how you want that to behave. Once the payment is approved, I just hit the approve button up at the top, and you can have multiple levels of approval as well. Now, for the lien waiver portion, this is the lien waiver setup and functions. There's an address book that you can build, which drives who will see or who will receive those lien waivers. So this gives you the ability, using that address, to say who receives what type of lien waivers. That way within the organization, if it's a different individual that's receiving, a partial waiver versus a final, you can control that. You have your lien waiver templates. So we give you the ability to build different templates within the system. So you can have different types of lien waivers. You could have job-specific lien waiver templates. You can, if you have templates already, you can just import them in here, or you can copy and paste. You select your fields over here on the left to be able to build that on your template here. And then you have a number of text options. If you want to bold or highlight, you can do that as well. So based on your Sage settings, that will drive when the lien waiver is created here, and it will use the corresponding template. When TimberScan creates those lien waivers, they will end up in this lien waiver review queue. So they're going to end up here for somebody to come in, do a check on that lien waiver, make sure everything looks good before it goes out. And at the top, once it's reviewed, you just hit review, and then you can either send them via regular email, or if you leverage the DocuSign integration, when you hit send, it will go ahead and send that lien waiver via DocuSign. Now, when the lien waiver comes back signed, it's going to land in the lien waiver queue. So here we have a lien waiver queue. You can also set it up so that when a lien waiver comes in, somebody on your end will be notified. So you can set up an email notification. That way they know that there's new lien waivers that need to be onboarded. So this is what it would look like here. It will come in, you'll see the signed waiver. And notice at the bottom here, when it comes back via DocuSign, it knows what record it's associated with in Sage. So it will automatically check off that record here. So when the lien waiver is accepted, it will attach the signed lien waiver to the invoice in TimberScan. It will update the Sage compliance record so that Sage knows that that compliance item has been fulfilled or met. And it will also attach the signed lien waiver to the compliance record within your Sage system. All right. And then we have a nice lien waiver status log. So this tells and tracks all of the lien waivers that have been sent, what's been received, what hasn't. You can see using the icons, if it hasn't been received, the green check mark means it has been. If there was any second tier waivers, there'd be a plus button over here on the left, and you can expand it out to see the second tier waivers. The columns are tailorable, so you can control what you want to see on your log, and you can also have filters. So if you would just wanted to filter and see lien waivers by job, or maybe a type of waiver, or just filter and see what hasn't been received. All right, so this is just a quick, nice, easy tool to use for tracking. There's also a DocuSign envelope inquiry, so you can track, move this back a little bit here. You can track those DocuSign envelopes, and that way, if you needed to resend an envelope, you can easily do that right from here. All right, and then, like I said, then the last piece of that is we tied it in with the payment release, so you can easily see if there's a lien waiver outstanding as part of the payment approval process. Once those payments are approved, you have the payment inquiry. So this shows me, all of the payments. It'll tell me the status of the payment in this column here. It tells me the payment method. So I can see if this was a check, the VCC means it's a virtual card. If it was an ACH, AvidPay Direct. These columns, again, are all tailorable and configurable as well. I can see proof of payment. If I click on the piece of paper here with the $sign, this shows me the proof of payment, regardless of the payment method. So even if it was a check that AvidXchange sends on your behalf, you will still see the cleared check image attached to that invoice. So this was a virtual card payment. You can see when that was processed. If I hit the plus button here, now I can see the invoice information. So there's a lot in this inquiry. So it's really, like I said, designed to kind of give you a one-stop shop to see everything. I can also see here all my pay control logs. So I have all the history of the payment approval process as well. Now, the nice thing with this is because that proof of payment gets attached to the invoice, anytime somebody comes in to look at that, invoice image, they'll be able to see the proof of payment. So that way, if a project manager's, getting called from a subcontractor and that, they can easily see, they don't have to, go to accounting to find out the status of the invoice or if the payment's been processed. All right, so I'm going to just head back into PowerPoint for a moment to do a quick wrap up. So we're going to just do a quick summary of the benefits. We've covered a lot of information in today's session. So I just want to summarize some of the bits here that we talked about. So automating with AvidXchange, these are some of the things that you'll get when you automate with TimberScan. You're going to reduce both your direct and indirect costs by having an end-to-end automated and paperless accounts payable process. You can earn rebates for each qualifying transaction sent through the AvidPay network, and those rebates can offset or exceed the cost of using AvidPay. You're going to gain back visibility with access to all invoice, lien waiver, and payment statuses, plus have more timely job cost reporting. You'll be able to maintain control by managing and approving invoices and payments based on the status of the lien waiver, all in one platform, and be able to analyze data with customizable reporting and dashboards. You're going to increase efficiency and be able to scale seamlessly by eliminating all the paper, the manual tasks, and errors. It's going to increase efficiency, allowing you to grow your business without having to scale your costs. And reduce risk by paying your vendors more quickly based on the status of your invoice and lien waiver. And providing more e-payment options enables you to mitigate the risk of check fraud and provides more options to pay your suppliers and subcontractors based on their cash flow needs. I also want to mention we can do a vendor match against our vendor network to be able to identify how many of your vendors are in our payment network and how many are accepting electronic payments. That gives us the ability to tell you what your rebates would look like and even provide a guaranteed rebate to be able to drive a predictable return on investment. All right, I'd like to thank everyone for their time. If you have questions or would like to meet one-on-one with a product specialist, please reach out to your account manager at Action Associates. And thank you all for watching.